Welcome to the RevOps Lab, a podcast exploring the art and science of revenue operations. To find more episodes and resources on scaling your revenue engine, visit getweflow.com/RevOps. Before we dive into today's episode, here's a quick insight. We asked the community how they capture activities in Salesforce. The result? Almost 2/3 of you use Einstein Activity Capture or Salesforce for Gmail and Outlook. And while it's great that you care about activity capture, those solutions can be quite problematic. For example, running reports and analyzing your activity data is often a nightmare with Einstein Activity Capture. And those who use Salesforce for Outlook or Gmail often miss activities because logging them is manual and time-consuming for your reps. That's why we built Weflow, a Salesforce activity capture solution. Hundreds of revenue teams use Weflow to auto-capture emails, meetings, and contacts. Weflow then permanently stores your activities in Salesforce so you can run activity reports, build automations, and get better insights. You can even sync past activities for up to 24 months. And with our admin console, you have full control over your setup. The best thing about Weflow? You're up and running in less than 30 minutes. So visit getweflow.com/activity to learn more and get your free trial today. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the RevOps Lab. We're here with Mickaël Jordan. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Hey, Mickaël.
Hi.
Hey, great to have you. So today we're going to talk about a very practical example of, how do you go from growth at all costs to efficient, sustainable, and predictable revenue growth? I think it's something that is obviously very important for everybody in the industry. And I met you through a Pavilion event and saw your talk, and I thought, this is very hands-on and very specific. So I absolutely loved it, first and foremost. And so this is going to be our topic for today. But before we jump in, maybe you can do a brief introduction about you and the company, and then let's focus on this interesting topic.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me on the podcast. So I'm Mickaël, I'm Chief Revenue and Alliance Officer of Agicap. So Agicap, in a nutshell, it's a leading cash flow management platform for SMEs and mid-market companies in Europe. So we handle everything around cash flow, cash management, cash forecasting, accounts payable automation, accounts receivable automation, spend management. So to give great visibility and predictability on the cash. And as for myself, I'm French, 38, living in Berlin, and I've been in tech for a while. Agicap for the past 5 years, and before in different fields in augmented reality. So, and happy to be here today to talk about this important topic of revenue efficiency.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think you joined the company really early, right?
Yeah, correct. So I joined Agicap in September 2019, and the company already existed for 3 years back then, but it took them 3 years to refine the product market fit. So when I joined, we were 10 in the company in a co-working space in the beautiful city of Lyon in France, and this is where things really started to grow exponentially. So I think back then we were at 300,000 euro of annual recurring revenue, and over the past 5 years we grew from 10 people to 600 people and past 50 million. So it's been a great ride. Now also operating not only in France but DACH, Italy, UK, Spain as well. So very exciting ride so far.
Yeah, I mean, congrats. I mean, these rides, they're amazing, right? It sounds like you were very lucky to join at the time where you really got into the most exciting phase of a company, but also probably a lot of challenging learnings, at least from my experience with Fiber. And I think Philip had similar experiences at his previous gigs. So right, to set the scene, right? Let's maybe start off with where were you in kind of May 2021, to December 2021, right? Where, in terms of headcount growth, CAC payback, how much money did you burn per net new ARR, right? Like give us some key metrics, and then how did they change, and then we want to dive and dissect how you actually did it.
Yeah. So why May 2021? So things became a bit extreme. We raised a big round of funding in May 2021. We raised 100 million euros with an American VC fund called Renox. So it was a lot of money at the time, and this were the time, like people remember back then, spring 2021. This is when there were like new unicorns popping up every day, and there were tons of growth rounds here and there, and so the rule of the game back then was grow as fast as you can. It's going to be a winner-take-all market. There is plenty of money, so just go for it and grow at any cost. So we listen.
You should have not listened. Just don't listen.
But this was the rule of the game. So you play by
for sure.
And so we grew from like 150 people to 600 people in 6 months. So this was like a time where I spent like almost 50% of my time in interviews, recruiting people, and same for middle managers. So this was like quite intense, and also launching new countries. Of course, not just like linear. It's like you launch new territories. You hire a lot of new people in your team. You build new teams. So a lot of recruitment, and of course, I mean, when you grow so fast, your headcount, but also meaning your cost base. Of course, revenue grows as well, but not as fast. So meaning that the CAC payback, the cost of acquisition of new customers, also increased significantly to, I think it reached like about 24 months in this period. And of course, you burn a lot of cash as well, because you raise a lot of cash. I mean, when you raise a lot of cash, there is an expectation that you're gonna spend it. But like this is where like the cash efficiency was around like €3 burned for €1 of net new ARR generated. And again, that was okay back then. But then what happened, if again people remember, at the end of 2021, there was like the market downturn with the Nasdaq first plunging, and then all the VC rounds frozen. Like there was almost overnight, right? There's no more VC money. And the interesting thing is that we got strong signals early on from our VCs, but that we took seriously compared to other scale-up, that we took seriously quite early on. Like this is gonna be the new norm. Like there is no major growth round coming up for an undetermined period of time. So just consider that you won't be able to raise any more money, and that now you need to have a super tight control on your cash, and you need to get super efficient in the way you grow. And so that was quite going from one extreme to the other almost overnight. And I think for a lot of scale-ups in the B2B SaaS world, it took some scale-ups, it took 3 months, 6 months, some 1 year, some 2 years to really digest and take into consideration these new rules of the game. But for us, we took it seriously, like very fast, overnight. So meaning like starting beginning of 2022, we were like into restructuring mode, and really also changing the way we operated quite drastically. And so overall, if we look at the long-term trends, I mean, our headcount has been more or less steady since. So we're still around like 600 people as we speak, 3 years later. And of course, the CAC payback has drastically decreased. Now we're really like around the B2B SaaS benchmark, around between 12 and 14 months of CAC payback, which is really good. And also in terms of cash efficiency, it went from 3 to less than €1 burned for every €1 of net new ARR. So we divided by 3 the the cash, the unique cash burn. So yeah, that was quite drastic, but done in a very disciplined way to improve all of these core metrics. And I'm sure we're gonna dig into the topic of how we
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah. I mean, so first and foremost, obviously a crazy story. What a year. This all happened in 12 months. So, I mean, let's dive in, right? So what were some of the major levers you took to basically go from 24-month CAC payback to, 13-month, 3 to €1 burn per every net new ARR, right? What were kind of the main levers? What did you do?
Yeah, right. So first of all, just in terms of the equation, so before, the only objective, at every stage of the company, company goal, manager goal, individual contributor goal, it was just revenue growth. That's it. And then suddenly there are two new parameters in the equation that were you need growth, but growth matters only if you get you have CAC efficiency and you have cash efficiency as well. If you're missing one of these two other parameters, the growth you deliver has basically no value. Also from a VC perspective, from a market perspective. So the equation fundamentally changed. And so what we did is just to include these parameters in everything we do. But first of all, before getting into the some of the tactics around this equation, first of all, it's a people game. So of course, the paradigm and the way we approached recruitment and training, we had to shift our focus from recruiting nonstop to really refocusing on high performers, refocusing on ramping up our people, of course letting go as well of people who did not perform well or that we did not count on for the future. But it was also a drastic refocus on hiring freeze, capitalize on the existing team, and make sure that they can all push their individual contribution so that everyone can be on quota or even exceed quota. And so, of course, to do this efficiently, we need to rethink a lot of ground rules. So rethink the career path, first of all, to make sure that all your top performers have visibility on how they will evolve. Because it might sound obvious, but when you have crazy growth and you're spending like crazy, people don't even think about this. Everyone is has this excitement of wow, everything's crazy, we're growing so fast, we have people coming every day. And then when you are in hiring freeze, people start thinking differently, and they're not wow, times are going to be more challenging. What am I going to do? How am I going to evolve? So that's why you need to keep your head cool and again take a break and give people some perspective on this is where you are. This is how now you're going to evolve from here. We're going to invest in you. This is how you're going to level up and progress. And so these were the times when we built all these career paths for our key position. We also revamped our compensation plans, especially for salespeople, to be more demanding. We introduced some threshold to unlock your variable. Before it was there was a variable from the first you generated. We introduced some thresholds, so there was a minimum monthly performance you needed to achieve to get your variable compensation. We also introduced accelerators to encourage overperformance and beating quota. We distributed stock options to top performers to really get them on this at least 4-year vesting plan and commitment. And also on a macro macro base, we also we evaluated our different territories to refocus on the market that worked well, and we downsized or stopped some geographies. For example, we downsized a bit or significantly in Spain. So it was a bit more challenging market, and we really pushed hard in France, DACH, and Italy that had really solid foundations. So, yeah, So first there was this focus on like people, recruitment, training, career path, compensation plan, because this was also like drives behavior of the people you have in your team to make these changes happen.
Yeah. I think this makes so much sense. It must have been like super stressful times for everyone, but also I cannot imagine like the number of meetings that the leadership team had with the various teams traveling from location to location, explaining like the changes, and then asking for like commitment from the people in the company to stick with it and work through it together. That must have been like super intense. Roughly how long in your mind like did this take to really turn the company and the people around, like changing this mindset, right? Like I think it's easier if you're like a small leadership team group, and probably like the switch happened quite fast. But then the rest of the company, like how long did this roughly take?
Actually, it was quite smooth and fast. I mean, to really see the result and that things were going in the right direction. I mean, it took a year for different reasons, because when you are in this like high growth mention, there is always some latency, right? There are people that you are really recruited that arrived, and then there are some costs that kind of stay there before your cost base starts dropping, and you see really all the unit economics getting better. So first quarter of 2022 was more like, even if some decisions had already been made, Q1 was already aligned with the growth at any cost equation. And then it's really starting like from Q2, Q3, Q4 that we really saw the improvement in the numbers and showing that we were going into the right direction. So I think it really took a year to consolidate and see, wow, okay, we've made the shift, and now we are operating on very sound foundation and rules.
I think it's a huge achievement, very hard to do. So I think that part alone, right? I think congratulations. The other part that I really like is also how you talked about it, is so starting with the people first, because that drives behavior. So you mentioned the changes to the compensation plans. And I think this is probably like a good segue into the next topic here, which is, I think, CAC efficiency, right? So because I think if you create compensation plans that really drive a certain behavior, then obviously it has like also a huge impact on like what kind of customers you acquire, how you work with them, how you manage them, right, and what the focus of the company is. So curious, like in terms of CAC efficiency, how you saw like the impact of the compensation planning there.
Right. Yeah. So the goal was really to have this. So it's hard to have a CAC efficiency target for individual contributors, but still it's important it's important for them to understand how it works. And it's like when you set target for salespeople and you say, for example, okay, your quota as an account executive is 6,000 euros of new MRR per month, and say like, why 6,000 and why not 5,000? Why not 7,000? So it's because if you take all the costs of marketing, your outbound SDRs, G&A, onboarding, etc., this is what you need to deliver to, at your individual level, have a CAC of 12 months, CAC payback of 12 months. So the individual contributor at least need to understand it. But then for the managers and the C-levels, this became an essential part of their annual bonus. Okay, so meaning that for salespeople, for onboarders, they understood the equation, but for them, the compensation was just purely based on revenue numbers, how much they actually sell. But for the managers and the C-levels, they had a grid based on the CAC payback performance. So if you are between 10 and 13, you get 100% of your bonus. If you are between 13 and 14, you get 80%, etc., etc. And it was like a multiplier of your revenue achievement. And so they
So
had
just a question here. So basically, you had revenue goals as a leader, right? Like for your specific territory or team or so on, and then essentially the CAC efficiency was like almost like a accelerator, decelerator.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Exactly, and so meaning that they really had to think about their complete equation to balance how many resources, how you optimize your resources and your cost base. So of course, it encourages you to be like very demanding in terms of the people you will keep in your team, or how you want to rethink your compensation plan, or where you want to invest, not invest. Now all of a sudden you think in a completely different way, and you have like this obsession of CAC payback and getting this balance between revenue delivered, but also the cost equation in front of it. Of course.
Sorry, just a quick question here because I think it's super interesting. Like, so out of the 600 people, how many people were in the sales team? Like, how many quota carrying people have you had?
So even like right now, we have about 40 account executives, and we have about 100-ish SDRs.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I assume that the managers also then took the CAC efficiency and the revenue growth, right? Like metrics to make decisions on, can I continue working with that person, right? Like, do I need to hire more people? Because that is essentially always like a contradiction, right? Like you run basically a P&L instead of just a revenue growth target, right?
Exactly. And I mean, before in the old world, like it was kind of okay. Say, okay, this individual contributor is performing so, but fair enough, better than nothing. I would say. Now it's like, okay, now it's feeling like payback, so I need to cut and move on. So yeah, it just changes the way you think. But not only in terms of people, but also in all the marketing campaign and for every channel. From, of course, your paid marketing campaigns, there was a strong focus also on CAC payback and really cutting the campaigns that had not a good enough CAC payback for Google Ads, Facebook Ads, so forth, so on. But also, of course, for our partner program and for outbound, we just look at the CAC payback per channel and really identifying the levers on how you can improve it. So on the partner program, for example, the level of commission you will give away to your partner has a big impact. On outbound, same. You have to be very demanding with the performance of your outbound SDR and the cost of the fixed salary and your variable comp to make sure that all of this is properly adjusted so you can deliver a good outbound perf at scale. And all of this happened also, what helped to improve the CAC payback as well, and was that we were also going up market, and we are still going up market aggressively at this time, meaning historically we were working mostly with like small companies, and we push hard to increase the basket price by both working with bigger companies. So we doubled the basket price in a couple of years, so it was quite significant. So working with bigger companies, but also pushing hard on upsell and cross sell, because like during the times of growth at any cost, we were really much focused on new logos, acquisition of new customers, and then because upsell and cross sell is also much cheaper revenue growth, we really refocused as well on this. So during this period, like in 2 years, we went from 5% of our new revenue coming from expansion to 20%.
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about this is, so basically you have a formula, right? Or you have an equation, and you explain this equation to everyone in the company. And by doing so, you create transparency about what is going on, what the focus of the company is. But at the same time, you also create a constraint and a framework to think about things.
So how do I operate? What is the best way to operate? What are the levers do I have, in order to maximize outcome for myself, but also for the organization? And I think it's just like a masterclass example in trusting sort of like the people that work in your business, in your company, to explain to them like how things work and why decisions are being made, in order to enable them to do the right thing for themselves and for the business. So this is why I really like this, right? And I think sometimes it happens maybe too rarely. I remember this when at Vuga, performance marketing was super big. And I think at some point, one person like on stage, our CMO, just put up the equation like LTV needs to be higher than CPI, right? I mean, obviously it needs to be that, right? But back then that wasn't so clear, in some cases, right? That was like the moment where like LTV came up and LTV calculations and so on. And like it created like a whole concept to think about stuff, like particularly in marketing, obviously, but also how you design games and what kind of systems you put in place to improve the lifetime value. Right. So yeah, I just want to say, I think this is really good. And I think great example for improving CAC efficiency in the large organization. I wonder, how did this also impact then the leadership team and sort of like the budgets that were assigned and how you talked about budget. So sort of like the whole cash efficiency topic.
So CAC is one thing, but there is also the cash efficiency topic, because the idea was to burn less and to also step by step build the path towards cash to become cash positive in a foreseeable future. And so this became like the third parameter of the equation. So growth, CAC efficiency, cash efficiency. And so same cash efficiency became a part of the equation for the annual bonus, but only for C-levels, not at the manager level. So CAC efficiency was for managers and C-level. Cash efficiency was really just a C-level parameter. In terms of the bonus. However, we made a big shift with the individual contributors. So both on the sales side, but also on the customer success side, because we pushed hard to collect as much cash as possible upfront from our new customers and from our existing customers. So basically what we did is we created a strong incentive scheme for salespeople to close 2-year, 3-year contract with upfront payment. So we would cash in for 2 or 3 years of licenses from day one. Of course, that will come with a significant discount for the client, and that will come with also a significant booster for the sales guy. And this worked really well. And we did the same on our renewals. So when the time came for our customers to renew their annual license, we also pushed for multi-year renewal with upfront payments. Like, you've been a happy customer for the past 1 or 2 years. If you renew now for the next 2 or 3 years and pay upfront, same, you will get either a small discount or you will get free upsells or no increase or whatever. But there was also a compensation, and this has a massive impact. I mean, we cashed in just based on this extra of the extra cash from the multi-year. We generated 650,000 euros of additional cash per month. 650,000. So that was like massive. So of course it's cash that you get now and that you will not get the next years, right? But under the circumstances when you needed to improve your cash performance and make sure you will have enough cash in the next 12 months before seeing how the market evolves, this was of course a massive shift.
It's basically an 8 million equity round every year, right?
Right.
Like basically but paid without interest.
Exactly.
And then obviously you reduce churn, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
your GRR and NRR numbers look a lot better. It's so obvious, but it's actually it's something
But
that's
now
pretty awesome.
we've changed this trade-off a bit, because we recently raised a new round of funding. Last October, we raised a new round. So big round, May 2021, was 100 million, and we announced a new round of 45 million 1 month ago with AXA Venture Partner. And because of this new round, we also not pushing as hard on the upfront payment, and we are more optimizing for MRR growth than upfront cash in.
Yeah. I'm curious. So you mentioned that you grew the expansions from 5 to 20%. Has that had any impact on your product strategy? I mean, did you consolidate to have more products so you can upsell them better, or anything on that front?
Yeah, sure. So during this period, we switched from a mono product to multi-product platform. So like initially, Agicap was really all about cash flow management. So you know how much cash you have, and you can do cash forecasting. And this is when we launched our accounts payable automation solution, accounts receivable automation, spend management, and so of course this helped to increase the basket price with new customers, but also with existing customers that adopted this new features. But also we started working with bigger companies through like land and expand strategy. So sometime you would start with a mid-market company that will start with only one pilot entity, and then you have a huge opportunity for upsells to all the entities of the group. Like we go from one entity to 14 entities. So this is also the time when we got better into this kind of land and expand motion. Start small and create really an expansion path with your new client, with new features, but also larger perimeters and entities and users on their side. This helped a lot to grow the expansion revenue. But when we can go much further into the share of expansion, I think some of the great B2B SaaS that work on like mid-market companies, they usually bring like expansion to 40-50% of revenue growth. So we still have a lot of room to push this rate up.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a very important topic for all your core metrics, and then especially when pipe gen has become a lot harder, and I think it's still hard, right? Kind of the unit economics often look a lot better, and we see this a lot that you start with like CS qualified opportunities that then basically become like expansion pipelines that you basically run like a sales process, but obviously a bit different with some characteristics, I'd say. But I'm curious. This is really more like a personal interest question. Like, what drives pipeline on new logo side right now? I mean, like, what's the split between, I think, channel, outbound, and then paid? Or I don't know if you have any other channels.
Now? Yeah, sure. So, I mean, right now, as we went up market quite aggressively the past years, the mix is different now than what it was 2 years ago. But now majority of new logos coming from outbound. So it's roughly 50-60% coming from outbound. Then we have like about 20% coming from partners, channel partners, and then the rest coming from inbound referrals and so forth. So yeah,
okay. So much about the LinkedIn discussion. Outbound is dead. So,
yeah, not in your case.
Outbound will never die. I mean, especially for a topic like ours, because I mean, cash flow management, the status quo is that all companies most companies manage their cash on Excel sheet, and so it's an equipment market. You need to generate awareness because they're not searching for it, right? But once you bring the opportunity to them, they're like, "Wow, I was not aware that this kind of capabilities existed." So we have to be proactive. So it's for us, it's definitely an outbound game. And of course, we like to go more towards like PLG and this kind of stuff, but we haven't found the native trait yet to go from outbound to PLG.
Here is a quick case study on activity capture from Plecklane. At first, Plecklane's sales team manually logged emails and meetings with Salesforce for Gmail, leaving around 20% of activities unrecorded. Plecklane then decided to roll out Einstein Activity Capture, but struggled with the data not being permanently stored nor reportable and missing custom logging rules. Without full visibility into activities, Plecklane couldn't properly analyze sales efforts by accounts or reps. Reporting on sales efficiency and velocity was very challenging. After running a quick pilot with Weflow, Plecklane rolled out Weflow Activity Capture organizational-wide. In addition to auto-capturing emails and meetings, the team uses Weflow's Gmail extension to further improve their opportunity activity data. Since adopting Weflow Activity Capture, Plecklane is in full control of their activity data. Visit getweflow.com/activity to learn more and try Weflow for free. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
And maybe one other just open question. I mean, any other tips that you would share, were there things that were especially impactful or any things you didn't mention to, go and in this transition?
I would say, one of the things we did as well, like you talked about like communicating to the team, getting the involvement from the team. Of course, you do it initially when you engage into this shift. But then what's also very important is to find your cadence and be transparent about like performance review. So, and it was also already the case before, but like at Agicap, every month we have this like all hands called the global revenue meeting, where we share the revenue performance of the company to everyone. I mean, we worked with monthly sprints, right? So every month you have the monthly target, and then at the beginning of the month we will look at how we performed the past months in terms of revenue growth, but again also around how was the CAC, how was the cash efficiency, how did we generate from our upfront payment, etc., etc. So there is a lot of transparency, and it's ongoing. And every month we will look at the numbers and we will share some success stories about it. So this is how we managed to get this like 3-year upfront payment with this great German company, and we will have the account executive explain how we did it and share some tips with the rest of the guys. So far, so on. So yeah, it's not only about changing the rules of the game and saying it once and you're good to go, but you need to get also into this cadence and this transparency so that you constantly push for it, iterate, share success stories, review the numbers every month.
So I think this is so important because, you mentioned this earlier that, you basically incentivize everybody and everybody is excited when everything is growing and exploding, right? But once they start realizing that it's actually not about that, but it's actually about building a sustainable, predictable, great company, right? And that a great company looks like what you just described and doesn't look like a CAC payback where you basically just burn through money, right? And like you have to reinforce that message again and again and again so that people become really proud of basically showing that they have achievement. Because this is a huge achievement you guys have done, right? This is really something that builds lasting companies. And so everybody, right, like should be really proud of that. And then they look back and they say, well, I totally believe in that game, because there's so many examples where this isn't the case, right? And you guys did it. And so, it reinforces this message. I think it makes everybody probably more engaged, aware, and motivated to continue that path. And so I absolutely love this final tip. Yeah.
And also, I think it just fits really well to a cash flow company, right? I mean, it's literally a business, and you lead with example. So, it's just a good story to tell, also, right? Quite frankly. So, one last question is just what's the next goal? So, you improved CAC payback. I'm assuming you're super cash efficient. So, what's the next goal there?
Yeah. So a couple of things that change now in the way we pilot the company and kind of North Star metrics. So you mentioned LTV before. So also what drove our change to go from small companies and really go up market and now really focus more on mid-market companies is driven by the LTV CAC ratio. The bench is that you need to have a good segment if your LTV CAC ratio is above 3. So meaning that a customer should at least generate 3 times the amount of revenue that compared to what you initially invest to acquire this customer. And so this is what drove us to really go up market, to kind of give away the smaller segments for which the LTV CAC ratio was not good enough, and really push harder on the right ones. So this is one thing, and also in terms of the overall rule of the game in VC. And again, this is not something that we made up, and this is we stay close to our investors. And some of them are in Europe, some of them are in the Silicon Valley. So they tell us, guys, these are the new rules of the game you need to play by. And now the new rule of the game is a rule of the rule of 40. And so I don't know if the audience has already heard about it, but it's a rule that allows to compare companies that are at different stages of growth. And basically you look at your growth rate on one side, so how much your ARR is growing year over year in percentage, the 10%, 20%, 60%, and then you look at your profit margin, so meaning your EBITDA as a percentage of revenue. That can be negative as well, right? And if you sum the two, you need to be above. The goal is to be above 40%. So, for example, if you have 30% year-on-year growth with 10% profit margin, you're good. You're at 40%. If you're at 50% growth but minus 50% profit margin, then you're only at 10%. You're not good, etc., etc. So this is also a balance between growth on one side, profit margin on the other, and finding the right balance. So now we have a trajectory to get towards 40 and beyond in the coming years.
Great, perfect. Mikaël, one final question. Sorry, I should have worded this differently before. But what kind of book would you recommend to our listeners that they should definitely put on their reading list for 2025?
Whoa. Around this B2B SaaS game, honestly, I'm not so much into books, but more into carefully selected, and more into benchmark and some well-picked articles around those topics than actual books. Of course, there are some classic books around predictable revenue and all of that stuff that now are being a bit dated, but what I would more monitor is some really good B2B SaaS benchmark that really allow you to understand where you stand, where your company stands compared to your peers, based on where you're at in ARR stock. If you're a 10 million ARR company, 15 million ARR company, 100 million ARR company, and if you focus more on SMB, mid-market, or enterprise, there are these great benchmarks that allow you to understand how you perform, where you have to improve, on growth, on cash efficiency, on expansion, on all of this stuff. So I'm more into this benchmark, and I'm just trying to remember.
So I can help you here because we didn't script this, but like actually just released a video today on LinkedIn because I absolutely love sales or SaaS benchmark reports. So there's great ones from Iconic. There's great ones from Lightspeed. There's also great ones from Bessemer Venture Partners.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I think what you should do is send me all your top recommendations, and we'll add them to. I created kind of an ultimate SaaS, resource list spreadsheet that is on our, getweflow.com/RevOps as a resource. So if you want to, check out some cool resources, right? They're all there. And I fully agree. I mean, I think this is a great way of learning, understanding. And I think, this episode was a great illustration of like how the C-level of high growth company thinks about this topic in a very practical manner, right? So I think we have a RevOps audience mostly, right? So I think this is very relevant. So thinking about like how can you influence some of those things and help, make some of those decisions. Because it's always easy to tell that story after the fact. Right. But when you sit there and you don't know what the impact is, right? It is extremely hard to do. And you need to, not just communicate it once, but really keep at it. And so it's a long way of saying congrats. Thank you so much. I love this. Really, really awesome what you guys have achieved. And I think rooting for you and the company to get beyond that, 40% rule of 40.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the RevOps Lab podcast. Please consider to like and subscribe our show and give us a 5-star rating on wherever you're listening. If you have feedback or suggestions, let us know at podcast@getweflow.com. We read and reply to every email. Thank you.